Kentavious Caldwell-Pope has arrived in Orlando. What the Magic feel he will bring to the table and his excitement about joining the team. Plus, we're going to say it again, the Magic are betting on themselves. Why the team continues with continuity. It's today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is July 8th. It will be July 9th, 2024. Where did the time go? My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, we met and talked to Kentavious Caldwell-Pope on Saturday, the championship glue that he hopes to bring to the Orlando Magic. We'll talk about what he adds to the team once again. Plus, we'll also talk about how the Magic are buying themselves. It's not just about Franz Wagner's new contract. We'll talk about the Magic's decision to stick with continuity. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when you upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, there's a great Locked On podcast covering every single team in the NBA. Just search for Locked On and the team you're looking for. The Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As the playoffs wind down, they're already done. The sports stop sporting, except for our friends at the WNBA and NWSL and MLS. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So the signings are official. We talked about Franz Wagner yesterday. We'll talk a little bit more about him today as well. Everything's always connected, and we rehash a lot of things. So our archives are always there for you. But the Magic signings are official. And obviously the biggest one, the one that is going to make the biggest impact on this team, the biggest change in this team, is a 3-year, $66 million deal with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Reportedly front-loaded, by the way, according to our friend Keith Smith at Spotrac. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope represents something new for the Orlando Magic, of course. It's not just that he is an excellent defender, someone who he says he believes she should be an all-defensive team player, someone who's excited to get into a backcourt with Jalen Suggs and form perhaps the very best backcourt in the NBA. I think that's our best defensive backcourt. I don't want to say backcourt in full, but the best defensive backcourt in the NBA. That might be very true at this point. But Kentavious Caldwell-Pope represents something else. He represents belief. He represents a player who is, at least to some extent, buying into what the Magic are and who the Magic are. Obviously, he is a great player, and Jeff Weltman has said that he is kind of an ultimate plug-in guy. They have no doubt that he's going to enhance what this team does. And even if he's just playing that sort of Gary Harris role, his defense is better, his three-point shooting's better. He is someone that is not going to get in the way of the Magic's development, which is a big part of what the Magic are doing here, but it's going to enhance what they do without having to do very much. Now, what the Magic really feel like they're getting with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is something else, something that KCP sees himself adding to the team as well. We all know the Magic beat the Nuggets twice last year. So, the Magic have played the Nuggets tough. We saw Michael Malone dap up Paolo Banchero while the team was in Miami last year during the NBA Finals and say on camera, the Magic gave us fits. The Magic were a tough out. The Magic beat the Nuggets twice last year. And no doubt, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope noticed that. Not just that they beat the defending champions twice. They swept them last year. But to say that is a team that plays hard, they play good defense. The kind of team that makes an impression on a veteran player like KCP. And look, the Magic are one of the few teams with money. I will admit that, and I'm reading between the lines so much here, I will admit I very much got the sense that if the Nuggets had offered the same deal to KCP, if they had offered to keep Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, we're probably not talking about him today. That might just be the reality. The Magic are still fighting to prove to themselves, to the veterans around the league, that this is a place to invest in. Regardless of any of that, KCP is here. Of his options, of the places he could go to, the Magic Orlando is where he chose to be. And the thing that he brings to this team is veteran know-how, beyond the shooting and the skills and all that, is the veteran know-how and championship glue. That's what the Magic feel they need. And I think it is instructive. I think it is important to sit here and say that Jeff Weltman, who talked to the media as well on Saturday, that Jeff Weltman came out and said, it's one thing to add a player with championship experience. It's another to add one who actually did something on those championship teams. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was third in minutes per game on both the 2020 Lakers and the 2023 Nuggets. He is a player who mattered, an extremely durable player, by the way, who mattered. And the Magic are expecting that same durability. They're expecting that same know-how, that same guy who made the stars' lives easier. To play that many minutes behind only your two stars means you are playing with the stars a lot, that you are someone that is valuable to them, regardless of your statistical output. He is someone that made those players better. You probably heard me say this a few times as we've talked, but I truly believe in the Horace Grant theory, or what I call the Horace Grant theory. Maybe it has another name elsewhere. But I believe that what really elevated the 94 team to the 95 team was, yes, Shaquille O'Neal and Penny Hardaway getting better, just like we expect Paolo and Franz to get better. But what really elevated them to a championship team so quickly, in my opinion, was Horace Grant. The presence of a championship-level veteran to kind of teach the guys when to be serious, when to focus in, how to manage and keep your goals in mind, in sight during the course of a long season. I would say this. The Magic got a lot of this, honestly, with how they played last year too. Joe Ingles does not have championship experience, so he's a little bit different, and he was coming off the bench. But very clearly, he very much felt like this team didn't need the veteran guidance. Didn't need the veteran to speak up and keep everyone on task. Everybody in that locker room, as they made their first playoff push, understood the goal, understood the task at hand. But obviously now we've got perhaps problem of more issues. We've got now expectations put on this team. There is an expectation to, at the very least, match what they did last year. And that's getting to a game 7, by the way. A 5-game series in the first round is going to be a disappointment unless the Magic are winning it. Frankly, I think a lot of fans will be disappointed if the Magic don't get out of the first round. That's expectation at a higher level. And dealing with that and dealing with kind of keeping that bigger goal in mind as you go through the down parts and the adversity of a season, that is something that a Kentavious Caldwell-Pope can bring to the table. The consistency he will bring will help this team. Yes, the shooting matters. Yes, the defense matters. All of those skills matter too. We're not sitting here thinking otherwise. But what the Magic are getting, because KCP averaged only with 10.1 points per game, 40.6% shooting from three, this isn't a guy that's going to dramatically change the offense. KCP brings someone who is going to be able to help this team grow. As Jeff Weltman said, quote, in the NBA, we all generate track records. Players generate their own track record. Every organization they touch, they leave a trail of people that everybody else talks to in their wake. This is one of the most stellar guys in the league as far as the reputation that he's generated over the course of his career. In the locker room, on the bus, on the plane, in the practice facility, coaches, management, performance, everybody just raves about him. As Kentavious Caldwell-Pope said too, quote, I just want to come here and bring my championship mentality, the knowledge I know from the teams I've been on. Also, my leadership. being that vocal leader on the court and off the court, being able to get these guys to stay connected. The more we stay connected and have that chemistry together is going to make the season easier, end quote. This is ultimately why the Magic paid so much for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. It wasn't for the 10 points per game, although that will help. It's because he understands what it takes to win. He understands what a winning team looks like. And while the Magic have great vibes and great aura, and I think all of us have no doubt that the Magic are going to continue to be very close, that they're going to have that connectivity off the court. All of us have no doubt about that. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope helps them go that extra mile, get that extra mile that they might otherwise be missing. This is going to be a fun signing. This is going to be a fun team to be around. This is going to be a fun team to play. This is going to be a hard-nosed team. It's going to be all the things we expect from these Magic teams now. And Kentavious Caldwell-Pope might be the championship glue that takes them to the next level. Of course, that was not the only signing the Magic announced on Saturday. Mo Wagner, Goga Bitadze, Gary Harris, and yes, Jonathan Isaac, all back as well. And the Franz Wagner Max, which we talked about yesterday. We'll talk again how the Magic are betting on themselves and how the Magic bet on continuity again. We'll get to all that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at BetterHelp. Look, social media is really tough. It's easy to sit there and doom scroll for 15, 20, 30 minutes. I fall victim to it too. And it's easy to look at the manicured photos and all the things that get put into your feed and feel down about yourself because everyone else seems to have everything put together. It's very easy to feel depressed dealing with social media and all of it, not just the good parts, but the bad parts as well. Comparison is indeed the thief of joy. It's easy to fall into these traps. Therapy, though, can help you focus on what you want instead of what others have, so you can start living your best life. I am someone who's a big proponent of therapy. I go to therapy pretty much every week still. It's a great place to kind of get my emotions on the table, verbalize things that I'm feeling to a welcoming and listening ear. It's helped me so much because we all work we're all kind of in our own silos sometimes. It helps me so much to connect to myself when the rest of the world is demanding so much of me. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Stop comparing and start focusing with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. We want to thank you for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, as well as the Amazon Fire TV channels app. With Locked On Sports Today, you get the best of the Locked On Podcast Network, talking about the biggest stories in sports from the local experts who know their team best. Ignore the national channels that jump in and go for the cheap storylines. Get the real deal on the biggest stories in sports from the Locked On Podcast Network. That's streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We've talked about this a lot. So if I am rehashing some things, I apologize for that. But today we're talking about what the Magic did and finalizing their free agency. And it is important to kind of get back to this. The Magic are betting on themselves this offseason. That to me is the theme of what the team is doing. And maybe Jalen Suggs is getting an extension, maybe he's not. But the Magic bringing back pretty much their entire roster, to me, is a signal that they believe in what they're doing. They believe in their process. They believe in who they are. They believe, in themselves, and they're willing to put their money on themselves. Now, granted, Gary Harris and Mo Wagner both have team options on the second year of their 2-year deals. They apparently waived their implied no trade clauses. The Magic are in a very good position to be mobile and nimble. Jonathan Isaac's contract comes with partial guarantees that don't become fully guaranteed unless he plays 52 games the previous season, according to Mike Scotto of HoopsHype. The Magic are bringing a lot of their own players back, but if things go wrong, they can make moves quickly to change that. That much is abundantly clear too. So the Magic are very much taking care of themselves. And I think that is a really important point to make and a really important thing to think about here. The Magic are nimble enough to do pretty much anything. But the Magic are betting on themselves. They're saying we look at the 2023 season, the 2024 season, and we accomplished everything we wanted to accomplish. We made the progress we wanted to make. And for us, and this is something Jeff Weltman has said, in order to help our key players grow, Paolo, Banchero, Franz Wagner, and Jalen Suggs, they believe continuity and a little bit of comfort, an understanding of where their teammates are and their teammates understanding the principles, the system, whatever it is, that is what will enable them to grow. That will give them the best ticket toward growth. That's what the Magic are essentially telling us. But like we said last week, continuity does have its limits. And Jeff Weltman, when we talked to him on Saturday, seemed to admit that to some degree. The quote that stood out to me is, quote, "I've always said to you guys, continuity is only valuable if your team is winning. There's no sense in continuously bringing back the same guys if it's not working. We do feel like we've landed on a good group of players who fit on the court, off the court. We feel like KCP is the ultimate fit in and figured out type player. That matters to us," unquote. I want to repeat that first part. Continuity is only valuable if your team is winning. We'd all be critical of bringing back all the same players if the Magic went 37-45 last year, if the Magic didn't make the playoffs, if they didn't accomplish their goals. And so obviously what the Magic did requires the context of their success. The Magic feel like they can bring everybody back because they were successful. Look, the Los Angeles Lakers are a great example of a team that feels stuck because they're bringing everybody back and they didn't accomplish their goals. They made the playoffs, but lost in the first round, lost in 4 games in the first round. They didn't get to the championship that they feel they are close to. And there's a sense of desperation from the Lakers, perhaps, that they need to do more. There's frustration with continuity when you don't accomplish your goals. The Magic have accomplished their goals, and they are adding some new players. Let's not pretend they're not. KCP is coming in. Tristan Da Silva is coming in. The Magic are adding some new players. But everything still starts with that success. If the Magic struggle, if the Magic don't meet their expectations, if their flaws become far more apparent, then they're going to move on. They're going to make tweaks. They're going to make changes. Right now, perhaps because the changes aren't there to make, the improvements aren't apparent, the Magic seems satisfied with what they're doing. And again, they're betting on themselves. They're betting that the biggest improvement that they will make is internal. Is Paolo Banchero going from all-star to superstar. Franz Wagner going from high-level starter to all-star. Jalen Suggs continuing to improve and grow into one of the best starting guards in the league. That's what the Magic are betting on. They know what they're getting from Mo Wagner. They know what they're getting from Goga Bitadze. They know what they're getting from Gary Harris. To some extent, they know what they're getting from Jonathan Isaac. Everyone that they re-signed is not a bet. They know what they're getting. The bet that the Magic are making, the variable that could change who the Magic are, is, like I said yesterday, their own players. But that can only last so long. It's not just because, and even Jeff Weltman admitted this, the salary cap's going to come for them. They're going to have to make some difficult choices in the near future, the very near future, in fact. They can't just keep spending willy-nilly. They can't just keep raising everyone's salary just by a little bit and continue to move forward. They're going to have to make decisions on players. This will not be the roster forever, but it is the roster for right now. And it's a roster the Magic appear to have a lot of confidence in growing and developing the way that they feel their team needs to. It is a roster the Magic feel confident is one that can carry them forward, carry them to their next level, carry them to whatever they hope to become. That's what the Magic are doing. That's what the Magic are betting on. That's what the Magic are saying to the world, that they have the supporting cast they need to elevate their team. That's why they didn't go after DeJounte Murray. It's why they didn't go after Anthony Simons. They believe they have the pieces they need to make the most of this phase of their development. Now, that's half the story. And yes, the Magic are betting on themselves, and I think it's a fairly decent bet. But we all know the Magic need more. That the Magic can't just be satisfied with what they were last year. And so the question now becomes, what's left to do? Can the Magic do a little bit more? That's something we'll ponder coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Look, I love sports, and summer can be kind of a downtime for sports. I mean, only MLB, the WNBA, MLS, and NWSL is going on, plus we've got international soccer. The Olympics are going to help us out, but look, it's nothing like the golden era of sports, those golden times of sports, when we have all four of the major sports leagues going on, when we have NFL, NBA, NHL, and so much more all happening at the same time. But with FanDuel, it lets you keep the sports going whenever you want. All you have to do is open the app and dream up at any time you're in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Look, I have seen the sports books and how they're working. The Magic summer has really changed a lot of the Magic's odds for the Eastern Conference Championship, as well as the NBA Championship. In fact, the Magic are currently 5th in the odds to win the Eastern Conference, plus 2,000, mind you, but 5th nonetheless, tied with the Cavs, ahead of the Heat. The Magic are finally starting to get a little bit of respect. In fact, the Magic are currently the betting favorites to win the Southeast Division at minus 125. You can find all these odds over at FanDuel. And look, we're going to get ready for Summer League here very, very soon. They do offer Summer League gambling if you're a degenerate. I'm sorry, they have it there. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer today. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. So here we are. We are at the end of the offseason. And look, I'm going to go on record before we start talking about this. I do think the Magic are done. I don't think the Magic have any more moves in the offing. I don't think that they are planning anything else this offseason. I think they are done. If I did my cap math correctly, they now have a payroll of $147 million. That puts them over the salary cap by about $6 million. If my cap math is correct, they ended up using the room mid-level exception to sign Goga Bitadze. He's, again, making about $7 million a year, $7 million this year, so that fits under the room mid-level exception. They waived the cap hold for Markelle Fultz. They waived the cap hold for Chuma Okeke. So those players, they no longer have bird rights. They can no longer go over the cap to sign them. They finally waived the cap hold for Fran Vasquez, the 2005 first-round draft pick who never made it to the NBA. The Magic are essentially done. There could be a trade that could happen in August or July, but again, we just talked about how the Magic bet on continuity and bet on themselves. Unless something incredible comes along, the Magic are probably going into the season with this team, with the team that they have. And a lot of people are asking me about this. And we'll do final offseason grades perhaps later on when we're in the dead part of the summer. But a lot of people have kind of asked me about this. What do you think of the Magic's offseason? How do you think they did? And typically and this is kind of the answer I've settled on, that I've refined over answering this question over and over again. Again, maybe we'll do an episode on the whole thing. I think the Magic are unquestionably better today than they were at the end of the last season. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is an upgrade over Gary Harris. I think Tristan Da Silva will be a very good player. Betting on Anthony Black's improvement is a good thing in my opinion too. I think Anthony Black probably was ready for more minutes and should have been given some more confidence and should have been given more confidence building moments last year than he was given. I think that he will take a pretty sizable sophomore leap and be a reliable player for this team this season. I think the Magic are absolutely a better team. However, I don't believe the Magic solved the problems that led to their loss in the playoffs. And as I look at this team in this season, my concern is that the Magic are going to face a very similar fate, where they still may not have enough shooting to get defenses to respect them. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope will help. A healthy Wendell Carter will help. Franz Wagner bouncing back to around 35% will help. Paolo Banchero is a markedly improved shooter. Jalen Suggs matching his 39.9% shooting or 39% shooting from three last year will go a long way. But a lot of this stuff is unproven. The Magic, I think, are still a little one-dimensional on offense. They did not find another kind of creator and playmaker. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is not a creator. The Magic did not answer the point guard question. Paolo Banchero told the Washington Post directly, we need a table setter. The Magic are betting that Anthony Black becomes one and that Jalen Suggs improves as one. And you're hearing here a lot of ifs. If this. This should happen. This should happen. This is still a young team that has to prove they can do it again. And I think the Magic will. Don't get me wrong. I think the Magic will be a playoff team. Someone mentioned this in the comments that I believe the Magic are a better team, although I don't know if their record will necessarily reflect it. I do kind of see the Magic not necessarily taking a step back, but in the boggle or in the kind of jumble of the Eastern Conference, because the Eastern Conference is going to be close like it was last year. Every game is going to count. And seeding is going to come down to that last game of the season. Just so happened the Magic won that last game. They got the 5 seed. This year, the Magic could lose that game and be the 7. That's all I'm saying. It's gonna feel very much the same. And when you're betting on results of a single game, and again, that could mean the Magic be the 4 seed. Like I'm not out here to say otherwise. It's going to be an interesting season for the Magic. But my concern is that they did not actually solve any of the problems that led to their playoff defeat. And obviously, I think the Magic are done. I don't think there's a trade. ESPN pitched that the Magic should do a sign and trade for Tyus Jones. Trying to make that happen would require trading at least Cole Anthony to free up the cap room. The Magic, again, are over the cap. It would cost a lot, actually more than Cole Anthony, because Tyus Jones is going to get more than $12 million at some point. Eventually, he's going to sign for something for more than $12 million. The Magic only have minimum contracts to offer now. And so, again, I think the Magic are done. I think a sign and trade would be really difficult to pull off. And I think it would be disruptive. And I don't think, again, the Magic's whole bag is they don't want to be disruptive. They like their team. Shout out to Otis Smith. They like their team. They like the continuity. They're betting on that continuity at this point. The Magic, I think, are done. But yeah, they could still use some more three-point shooting. They got a lot to prove on that end. They could still use a table setter and a point guard. To me, a point guard would just settle everything down and organize the team a little bit more in a way that they weren't at times last year, to help reduce turnovers especially. We know the Magic will be an elite defensive team. I think that's the one thing we do know, and that's going to keep them in and help them win a lot of games. But ultimately, the Magic had the worst offense among all teams that made the playoffs last year, made the postseason last year. The Magic have not had an offense outside the bottom 10 in the league since Dwight Howard left, since 2012. That's a stat they need to retire this year. At minimum, that's the stat they need to retire this year. And while I think Paolo will be better and Franz will be better, there's no guarantee they do that without some major changes on offense. And that would have been a place where the Magic could have gotten a Tyus Jones or gone after D'Angelo Russell if he'd opted out. Go trade for an Anthony Simon, someone who would very clearly help the team's offense. But very clearly, again, the Magic doubled down on what they're good at. They doubled down on their defense. They said, we're going to commit and stick to a principle and an identity. Those are the players we're going to add, and we'll get better offensively through internal growth. The Magic do have a lot left to do. I don't think they're a championship level team yet. They're going to get there very quickly. They're not far off. I really don't think they're far off. They're one big move away, perhaps, from getting there. They're Franz becoming an all-star, Paolo getting better, Jalen Suggs continuing to find consistency. That's how close they are to being a really dangerous team. They could very easily have the kind of season the Indiana Pacers had. The Magic have to get better at beating elite teams. That I think is the biggest thing. Orlando feasted last year on bad teams, and they got to do that again. I know everyone likes to point to the Charlotte loss and the Houston loss, but the Magic feasted on bad teams last year. They got to do that again, and they got to beat good teams too. That's going to be the challenge again. That's going to be the thing to elevate is, okay, win some big games. Go win that game against Oklahoma City on national TV. The Magic will get a few national TV games this year. Win those games. Deal with that pressure. But the Magic have a lot left to do. Let's not make any bones about it. This is not the final product. And this is a team that is going to have to face its weaknesses at some point. And perhaps be willing to sacrifice a bit of their identity to get it done. That wasn't this summer. For better or for worse, that wasn't this summer. And so now the Magic have to find their way forward once again. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all the fun places on podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, find us on Twitter at OMagicDaily. Don't forget, you can check out this podcast on YouTube over at youtube.com/@LockedOnMagic. We were actually featured on the Locked On Podcast Network, on the Locked On 24/7 show, in one of their special kind of national grab bag shows. You can see that segment in an exclusive clip on our YouTube channel as well. So definitely check that out. For even more Orlando Magic content, including early previews of stuff that will come to Orlando Magic Daily, be sure to check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. I will be actually heading out to Las Vegas later this week for Summer League. So if you want the latest on the Magic at Summer League, my Patreon page is the place to go. That's patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. As always, thank you for your support. And I'm always looking for new ideas there as well. So if you do choose to subscribe, let me know what kind of content you are looking for. Now that you're done listening to me, be sure to check out the Locked On Sports Day 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Day is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Day now available on the free Fire TV channels app. And like I said, Locked On Magic was featured on that channel yesterday in the 6 in 60, the 6 biggest stories of the day. And I believe 60 minutes, because my segment was 7 minutes long. You can check that out again on YouTube as well as the Amazon Fire TV channels app. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. On tomorrow's episode of Locked On Magic, it's a Summer League preview. We'll talk about what Tristan Da Silva and Anthony Black and Jet Howard are up to and what the Magic Summer League team is looking like. We'll get to that on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Magic. But until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.